Hey everybody, it's Peter here. I wanted to send you a video. Even though we're working together in a virtual environment, I thought it'd be nice for you to get to know me a little bit more personally, and I hope this video goes in way into achieving that goal. My name is Peter Dargitz, and I am a kindergarten teacher just outside Milwaukee at Woodside Elementary, a public school in Sussex, Wisconsin. I started an outdoor program there about 8 years ago. It started as a class just for me, using my classroom outside in a unused parcel of land that was owned by the district but never really used. And since then, it's transformed into a district wide family nature club, a school wide collaboration with our nature center, and a grade level wide nature kindergarten program. But even before I started that outdoor program, I was really focused on play. And I did a lot of steps, reading and research to turn my classroom into a more play based approach to learning. And let's just say that kindergarten, as you may know it, is definitely not the kindergarten it was many years ago. And even 10 years ago, before I started my program, my classroom was very academic based. And I focused a lot of my time and attention on academic achievement. A lot of the things that we were considering very playful, like the dress up clothes, the housekeeping, the Legos, the toys that are mostly synonymous historically with kindergarten, were all collecting dust in my closet. It was all about academics. It was all about getting those assessment scores up, reaching those data points, and really getting those kids to academically achieve. And I was doing a really good job of that. I had classrooms that were very successful academically, and we were getting better and better scores every year. But there was one student in particular who was the rising star. She was above it all. She was doing things that I couldn't imagine any kindergartner doing, and I joked that I stunted her development. But she was reading at a third grade level. She was writing poetry and nonfiction research papers just for fun. She was doing multiplication problems just because she was bored and she wanted to test herself. And at the end of that particular school year, I noticed that, the classroom, we were finishing up with our curricular goals. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe, bring out some of the finger paints, bring out some of the toys, bring out some of the puzzles and the games that were collecting dust in the closet and only really brought out on special occasions, and just have kids, you know, choose what they wanted to do, where they wanted to learn. And it was amazing. I saw so many kids come out of their shells. For 170 some days, these kids were focused on academics. They were focused on getting their skills, and I was focused on that for them. And I saw sides of their personality in those last few weeks I had not seen before. And it was really an impressive display to see these kids take leadership and to show off that they knew so much more that was blocked because I wasn't looking for it and I wasn't giving them the time, space, and opportunity for those emergent learning and playful opportunities. And then I saw that star student. I saw her shell up. I saw her not be able to initiate play or problem solve, excuse me, with her peers. I saw that it was something that I needed to change. I gave her lots of opportunities for academic achievement and excelling in the curricular areas, and she did that flying colors. She knocked everything out of the ballpark that I threw her way. But when it came to just, being a kid and learning to work with her peers for 170 days, I had not noticed it or glossed it over because of her academic achievement. And I realized that I needed to change the way I taught because at that same time I was having my first child, and I kind of came to the realization that I would not want a student like my child to be in a classroom like mine. And that was a really hard and tough pill to swallow, realizing that you wouldn't want a kid in a classroom that was run the way you ran your own. So I knew, I might not be able to change the entire system right now, but I can change the way I approach the system and change the way that I run my classroom. And I thought the best way to do that was through play. So I did a lot of reading, a lot of research. Excuse me. And in that research, I also learned about nature based programs and about nature play. And it just all came together that this is the way I needed to change and transform my teaching classroom, my teaching philosophy, and just my general personality and persona. So I did so, and it's been a wonderful change, and I can't imagine ever going back to that more traditional kindergarten sense. I just can't see how it could ever go back to just paper pencil and not give the emergent opportunities. Now, a play-based classroom does offer unique challenges that maybe other classrooms might not. You do have to give up a sense of control when it comes to an emergent classroom. You do have to understand that the word unstructured can be very problematic for other people and can be very intimidating. And in fact, it's a word that I don't like to even really use. I don't think play is unstructured at all. It might be unstructured for adults because we're not in control, but kids are structuring it in a way that works best for them, in a way that we might not be able to see or understand right away, but given time, space, and opportunity, that structure makes itself very clear, and the kids are able to form and create wonderful play personalities and structures that really make their play very successful under the guidance of adults, not under necessarily the direction. So it's a very, very touchy subject for many people because of the pressures that are out there for academic achievement, the pressures that are out there for test scores to rise, for data to be shown that kids are working towards these particular goals. Now, I could go into whole long segments about why I feel maybe the academic achievement and the scores and the things that we're really pushing kids to do at an early age are not only not necessary, they're possibly detrimental to those kids' development over time. But that's a whole nother course, and that's a whole nother thing we could talk about. But I do want to spend, again, another minute talking about the power of play, and more importantly, showing you just some of the resources that have helped guide me. Now, these resources are simply for you to know. They're not going to be a required part of this class, but moving forward, I want to just show you them. You might be familiar with some of them already, and some of them might be brand new to you, and that's really cool to just go and explore, hopefully be inspired and motivated to take some of the learnings and the understandings that you're learning and observing in this classroom and in our online course and in the all 4 courses put together, but also going back and finding a way to incorporate some of the ideas and methodologies in these books into your practice. So you won't have to stare at this face anymore. I'm going to show you some of these wonderful resources and hope that maybe someday they'll inspire and motivate you to turn your classroom into a very play-based and nature-based program for the benefit of kids. So, without further ado, here are some of the resources that I've loved over the years. This book was actually written by one of my friends in the nature-based world, Sheila Williams-Ridge from University of Minnesota, but it really talks a lot about how you can really focus nature-based education on our youngest learners, and not necessarily when you have the most natural spaces around your school and education centers, and maybe when you don't have the most funds for you, your program, and maybe for the participants in your program. This Balanced and Barefoot book is focusing more on kind of an adult perspective of how we treat and work with kids. It does talk about what the author calls unrestricted outdoor play, and really kind of challenges some of the things that a lot of parents or a lot of schools kind of see as what's best for kids these days. This is another story about just learning a little bit more about the science behind the importance of getting kids out in nature. It's written by Scott Sampson, who is a paleontologist and actually helps create the show Dinosaur Train on PBS. And here is a professional practice book written through the NAAEE's Early Childhood Offshoot Natural Start Alliance, and I was very fortunate to be one of the 10 contributing authors to this book, which talks about very important nature-based preschool practices, but certainly can be applied to other settings as well. Now, these next set of books don't necessarily connect directly to nature, but can certainly be used to improve and discuss how you can make your nature program even better than it already is. It's okay to go up the slide again. Challenges the rules of recess and the expectations that we have for kids, and how we might be stunting some of their creativity by the things that we're doing to potentially keep them safe. Playful Classroom is a newer book written in the last few years by a couple friends of mine, Jed and Julie. It's just a wonderful way to talk about how playful a classroom can be, not only at the earliest levels, but all the way up through college and even to adulthood. And they actually have a new book coming out in a few years. I believe it's called The Playful Life, but they just introduced it. The Power of Play really focuses on the science behind play. Really cool book. This is one of the first books I've ever read about the power of play. Lisa Murphy is an early childhood guru, and she writes a lot of materials about what's best for kids, whole child development, and this is a book specifically focused on play. And this book is another newer book that really gives a lot of direct stories about how schools throughout the world are using play to improve their schools, their country's achievement, and a lot of people's perspectives on the power of play. Here's another book that talks much more about direct connections from play into standards, and how preschool and kindergarten can use play to impact the standards, and why play should not be thrown away but really be saved. Here's another very important book by Dr. Stuart Brown, who's one of my favorite play professionals. He just really looks at play in a totally different way that, to me, makes complete sense. And this is a very scientific book, focused on how play is important for brain development. Another wonderful author is Peter Gray, another play guru and professional who talks a lot about the importance of play, not how it can help schools, but how it sets up kids for success in life in general. And I can't not toot my own horn, but my book, Teaching Off Trail, which describes the origin of my nature kindergarten program, comes out November 12th. It was delayed, supposed to come out a month ago, but officially comes out November 12th. So feel free to get a copy. I would love to see that support, and this is really important to me because it shows how it can be done in a public school classroom. So these are just a small sample of my play library, but I hope they give you a little hint out of some of the things that help develop my classroom the way it is now. But it's like everything else, it's always changing. It's emergent. Let the kids lead, and every year is different, for not only for my kids, but for me, my classroom, and my school. I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully you get to know a little bit more about me, and I hope you enjoy Module 3, Learning About Play.